Let me get visuals set up for y'all. Visuals should be good at this point, I think. And of course, we start off with me yawning. But hello, everybody, and welcome to more of Seduce Me to the Demon War. I am Gina, aka the Gina Chu, and we are going to pick up continuing to romance James. I left off at a very mean cliffhanger last time, on purpose. But my peace didn't last. Who knows what's going to happen? Well, I mean, I don't. We're playing this blind, but yeah. Oh god, something else is still after us. What the? I felt the void around me shift and brighten to a blinding white, causing me to shut my eyes. Feathers gently brushed against my skin and I lurched and squirmed away from them instinctively. What was happening to me? Oh, removing memories? Is that what's going on?
No, technique.
Oh. Diana's voice echoed through the air, surprising me and causing me to look around. As I turned my head to look behind me, a pair of arms wrapped themselves around me and held me close. What?
Don't struggle.
Sarah? Cookie's here! Hello, Cookie, my love!
Et hic habet potestatum. Adoro teut non et duro.
Oh. Something bad is happening. Was he trying to take our memories?
E credere de loco isto.
De loco, that means you're crazy. He went into a little bit of Spanish there. Ooh. He told him to shut up and probably made fun of his social status, I would assume. I barely understand the Latin. I became lost in what was happening. Nothing was making sense, but I knew that they were speaking in some form of Latin. The voices that weren't Diana and Sarah, however, struck fear into my core with each word they spoke.
Zero, end this!
On Diana's command, Sarah cast some sort of spell, causing his body and mind to become enveloped in a gold light. I felt every nerve in my body heat up almost uncomfortably, making me squirm slightly in Sarah's arms. Sarah, however, tightened his hold on me and continued casting his spell. At last, the world around me suddenly went dark, and I found myself shooting up in bed, awake. Ah!
Love?
I looked to my side to see James, shaken awake by my sudden outburst. His eyes were glossed over from exhaustion, but he continued to watch me with worry. This was the second time I woke him up like this. Damn it. Fraggie's in the house! The family troll is here!
Why are angels hunting you?
Oh dear, those are angels? Yeah, look, I was right. They were trying to erase our memories, because that's what angels do in this world. Yeah, I think I got that right. My afternoon was okay. I didn't get anything done that I really wanted to. I got lazy. It was pretty bad. James and I suddenly shut our heads towards the sound of Diana's voice, seeing her and Sarah by the door. She had her arms crossed and a look of pure irritation on her face as she awaited my answer. However, I didn't know what to say. Angels were hunting me? I stared at Diana, confused as to what she meant. James sat up at last, matching her expression with irritation of his own.
What are you talking about?
I wasn't speaking to you, Rick. James.
My eyes widened at the slip. Did she almost say James's real name? Diana growled and clicked her teeth before looking into me again, glaring harder. We know his real name is Ray Stroud. We know this already.
Your dream almost allowed them to erase your memories.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going on. My body chilled at the thought. What the hell? I was confused and fearful of what was going on. What was happening? Why were there angels after me? James wrapped his arms around me, seeing me visibly shaken at Diana's words.
Explain, Diana.
Ask your fiancée why she's targeted by them. Don't ask me. I want to know as well.
I don't know. I really don't know. I truly didn't know. What could I say? This is the first I'd heard of angels hunting me. The dream was not a dream I'd ever experienced before.
Angels don't target just anyone. They have to have a reason for hunting people down to erase their memories.
I would assume they know that my fiancé is a demon.
Especially when their target is in the demon world.
Yeah, that's another thing too. I held my head and shook it, trying to figure it out. Did I do something wrong? What did I do to incur the wrath of angels? Diana sighed and rubbed her temple.
Well, they've been expelled from the castle for now. For how long? Who knows. However, we need to figure out why they are trying to take your memories away.
Yeah, this is the last thing Diana and her people need right now. Looking up at Diana, I could tell that this was a serious situation. Sarah looked at the floor, exhausted from casting the spell to expel them himself. Diana growled beneath her teeth as she looked to the wall.
Another problem. Great. Can this war be any more irritating?
Well, wars are not fun. The Pokemon Go stuff is ridiculous. It is just way too much. Like, I can't even, I can't. My friends and I went to dinner Friday night, and I was in the car with my friend that, we were at his house, and the rest of my friends that were in the other car were waiting for like 5 minutes outside of his house for him to come back up, because he had to stop by the post office, because the post office is apparently a Pokemon Center. I can't take it anymore. And then when we pulled up to his house, my friends were running around the grass because apparently there was some fucking rare Pokemon on his front lawn. I don't know. This shit's insane. I have no idea what's going on. I'm not a Pokemon person, but I mean, it's just, my friends are like losing their minds over it. It's like taking over their lives. It's unreal. I felt myself curl up a bit at Diana's irritation. I was already a problem that she was going to help solve, and now there was a second problem on top of that. James hugged me gently against his chest comfortingly, feeling me shirk back away from Diana.
Is that all?
From the tone of James's voice, he wanted Diana to leave immediately. Diana looked over and stared at James, a flash of slight fear in her eyes before her face hardened to a cold glare.
No. Whatever you are doing to try and make me fear you needs to stop.
I don't know what you are talking about.
Say what you will, but I can recognize fear enthrallment anywhere. Thank your father for that.
I looked at James, seeing him glare hard at Diana while Diana simply glared back. When my eyes trailed to Zero, I could see a form of jealousy burn in his gaze at my fiancé. What was happening? James?
Yes, love?
Diana turned on her heel towards Zero, now furious for some reason. Zero, seeing his mistress turn, quickly turned as well and opened the door for her.
Sleep. We have work to do tomorrow.
Diana left with Sarah right behind her, closing the door. James's embrace finally relaxed around me and pulled me close. What was that about?
I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't hear about any kind of murder, Frankie, but I know that there have been a lot of people that have been attacked because, you know, they know where the Pokemon are and they go and they attack people who aren't paying attention because they're too busy trying to find Pokemon on their phone. And I know there's already been huge car crashes, and it's just out of control. Our society cannot handle this level of Pokemon.
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm gonna trust him. Okay. James, however, stared at me with pure concernment all over his expression.
But was Diana right? Are angels after you?
I don't know. I just had a dream that was full of light and feathers, and a look of fear ran across Jason's face for a moment before he shook his head and returned to his calculated but worried expression. Was Diana correct? Was it an angel attack and not just some random dream? My memories recalled when I was captured. The voices that appeared in my room before the imps came sounded familiar to the ones in my dreams. Had they been angels as well? This was crazy. What was going on? First I'm cursed, then I'm hunted? This was unbelievable in every sense of the word. Nothing made sense and this entire situation was confusing. What would angels want with me? James shook his head and kissed my forehead.
Well, they're gone now. Let's get some more sleep.
I nodded, wrapping my arms around James and lying back with him. He slowly began to pet my hair, most likely waiting for me to fall asleep first before he did. Slowly I closed my eyes and let the darkness of sleep take me over once again. This time, there were no rocky dreams. I simply floated in the darkness until I naturally woke up, still in James's arms. Yo, there's not good stuff going on here, man. I looked up at James's face, so peaceful and almost happy. His arms around my form made me feel warm and fuzzy inside, causing me to cuddle closer to his body. Unconsciously, James pulled me closer to him, wrapping his arms tighter around me. I could tell he was awake, however. His breathing wasn't slow like it usually was when he slept. James? No response. He was pretending, which made me giggle a bit. Little things like this took my mind off of the world and made me forget my troubles, whatever they were. I guess that was the blessing of being in love. I smiled and kissed James's cheek, making his smile grow a bit more. I knew it. I know you're awake.
No, you don't.
I laughed and playfully smacked his upper arm, making him laugh as well and open his eyes to look at me with a loving but tired gaze. I became once again lost in his eyes as he smiled at me.
Good morning. Did you sleep better?
I nodded, knowing he would be happy to hear it. I was more than happy to say it before snuggling into his arms, nuzzling his chest. Well, what about you? Did you sleep well? James nodded and ran his hand through my hair, petting me lovingly.
I did. All I did was dream of you.
A soft blush formed on my cheeks before I looked up at him, seeing him smile down at me.
It's the truth. Would you like to hear?
I felt myself nod before I even tried to think about the question. James smirked a bit before wrapping his arms fully around me and leaning to whisper in my ear. Oh, this was some kind of, yeah.
I dreamt that we were on a private island, basking in the sand beneath the sun. The wind was perfect, and you looked absolutely stunning in your swimsuit.
I began to imagine it myself, causing the blush on my face to intensify. As James tightened his hug around me, my body began to heat up on its own from the warmth his body gave me.
Then you pulled me into a kiss, one that I couldn't help but melt into. You kept teasing me until I pinned you down against the sand. And I made you beg for me to kiss you.
James peppered kisses along my neck, making my body shiver at both the image of his dream and the feeling of his lips upon my skin. I let out a silent but shaky sigh as James nuzzled at my head, opening his mouth to say more. Alas, our moment was broken by a loud knock on the door.
Oi! Quit fucking him there! You got food for— Go! Little shit!
Sam! Oh my god!
Oh, I don't want to imagine that, dude!
We do have food, though. May we come in?
James and I let out a simultaneous sigh. So much for enjoying the moment. This was the misfortune of not being alone. I knew that we would eventually have our alone time together, but for now, a blush of embarrassment ran across my cheeks in response to Sam's allegation. James smiled and kissed my forehead before lifting his head and sitting up.
Come on in. We just got up.
So I sat up as well, right as the door opened to the hallway, revealing James's brothers and their wives with plates of food. Eric and Irene each carried 2 plates and handed the extras to me and James.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Irene.
My pleasure.
On the plate was food I recognized. Bread, cheese, fruit, and some sort of jerky. I assumed it was safe and something I could stomach. James placed his plate on his lap before looking to the group.
So, training starts today.
Finally! I get to kick some ass!
Sam. And Gwen is here! Gwen! Gwen! Oh my god, I could just hug you for days. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy all you guys are here.
You kick ass anyway, you dork.
Sam blushed and rubbed his neck before stuffing his face with food, not wanting to say anymore. Matthew laughed and nodded.
We know what you mean, dude. We can finally kick that old man's ass.
Yeah, we can go kill our father. We're so excited. Hey, you know what? In their defense, he wasn't really Father of the Year material, alright? I don't know if Shelties is going to be around. If Shelties talked to you, that's good, because you two were kind of going at it last night. You two should kiss and make up. We're a family, damn it!
Not to be the skeptical brother here, but is it possible to become stronger than him in just a week? It's been a while since we've had any encounter involving combat after all.
We'll kill him.
Whoa, Damien! Damien's like, this motherfucker's gonna die! Everyone looked at Damien, seeing his stern and cold expression. I frowned, knowing why Damien was so angered at the Demon Lord. As the bastard son, Damien had been left for dead and only survived thanks to his brothers. Very true. Oh god, hold on. You guys missed it earlier. Shelties brought in another account just so that she could heist more often. She's obsessed. Damien had more reason than most to hold a grudge against the Demon Lord. James, however, cleared his throat and looked to Eric.
We won't be fighting him alone. This rebellion will help us and allow us to focus our energy on defeating him.
I've been waiting years to kick his arrogant brute face in.
And this is coming from the self-professed brute.
I think we all have a grudge against him, Sam.
We got this.
I would not be so sure.
Oh, look at that face! Oh, Matthew's new surprised face is adorable! I love it! Everyone turned to see Sero in the doorway, alone, leaning against the archway with his arms crossed.
Oh, Sarah, where is...
My mistress had a rough night. She's still recovering from it.
I grimaced, knowing that the reason she had a rough night was because of me. Sero, however, seemed to be re-energized and somewhat bright-eyed. His gaze landed on James and glared hard, causing my fiancé to straighten up a bit.
None of you know what has happened these past 10 years. None of you know of the Demon Lord's true strength.
Then would you care to enlighten us?
At last, Sero pushed off the doorway and walked further into the room, closing the door behind him. He looked to each brother, examining each man before settling his gaze on James again.
The Demon Lord is a madman.
You don't need to tell us that.
No. He was mad before, but he lost his mind completely when my mistress formed the rebellion against him. He's killed thousands by his own hand alone out of pure rage.
Well, that sounds like something he was pretty capable of, even before the story started. Sero's grip on his spear tightened as something resurfaced in his thoughts, reflected in his glare.
Too many times has my lady faced off against him and almost lost her life in exchange.
Sero's cold stare rehardened itself on his face as he shook away the thought and looked at Damien, who had a stony expression to match.
What makes you think that you, a band of humanized demons, have any chance of destroying him on your own?
The brothers seemed to glare in unison at Sero, as did the wives. We're a member of the wives, well, soon-to-be wives. I, however, saw his point. The boys had been in the human world for over 2 years. They'd missed so much here and had grown accustomed to human life. I'd only been here a day and knew that this world was much more ruthless than the human world. Sam stood and marched towards Sero, standing almost nose to nose with the guard and giving him a terrifying glare.
What makes you think we can't, prick?
I have seen with my own eyes what the Demon Lord can do in battle.
We had to live with that sack of shit for almost 100 years as his sons. We know more than you ever will.
Now, they have a lot of inside info. Like, you guys might want to listen. They might have tactics ideas. Like, it would be stupid for you to spit in these guys' faces, because this is their father you're talking about.
Sam, that's enough.
No, it's not.
Sam and Sero continued to glare daggers into each other's souls, anger burning in their eyes without any sign of retreat.
We had to live with the fact that our dad burnt down villages, enslaved people, and stole hundreds of lives day after day, ending his night fucking a woman who was chained to a goddamn bed. What the fuck makes you think that we don't know anything about him?
Yeah, that's true. Gwen, that's adorable. Since you are Gwen Stacy after all. There is somebody that works in my company, at another branch of my company, whose name is Barbara Gordon, and we refer to her in our office as Batgirl. It's a thing that we do. Damien seemed to flinch at Sam's words, but his angered face remained as Sero and Sam had their stare down. Sero, however, remained unfazed.
Like I said, he has completely lost his mind. If he was a monster before, he is Satan himself now. He does more than slaughter and burn villages. He takes prisoners and paints the ground with their blood while howling into the sky. He leads legions of imp demons who do nothing but make sure their victims suffer in agony before making them beg for death. He now takes pleasure not in a bed, but in the screams of millions.
Oh, Gwen. In an act of defiance, Zero straightened his back and almost towered over Sam, gritting his teeth.
If anything, the reason he's as mad as he is now is because you all decided to run, so the blame for this war rests on all your shoulders.
Is that why you're being such a douche? You think it's our fault? No. Instantly, Sam's fist met Zero's jaw and forced him back towards the door. Zero slammed into the door and gripped his hand over his mouth, rubbing it in pain. Wow.
Sam!
Sam!
Fuck you! Do not blame this fucking war on us!
Zero wiped his lips of fresh blood that began dripping from his mouth and glared as the punch wasn't as painful as it looked.
Arrogant mutt! The call of the human world was too tempting for you to ignore. You have forgotten about duty and responsibility. By
the way, this around his wrists is not, somebody mentioned, I think yesterday, that it was his handcuffs. It's not. It's the dog tag that he used to wear around his neck, I do believe.
We left because we were tired of the lives we had.
You left the world and everyone in it to become the victim of a madman and a world war. None of you understand what we have even sacrificed to stay alive.
It's not their fault.
No, we don't. And we never will.
James finally stood from the bed and placed a hand on Sam's shoulder, forcing him to step back. As Sam rejoined Carrie, who wrapped her arms around him in comfort, James looked to Zero.
But you cannot blame us for wanting to be free.
Zero, on the other hand, began to laugh. It was a painful laugh, but one full of anger.
You have no right to defend yourself, eldest son. Because of you specifically, my mistress's entire world was destroyed.
Wah, wah, wah. I stared wide-eyed at Zero. This was about their betrothal, but James did what was best for him. He and I didn't care about the consequences of our love, but Zero's painful words made me shake. Zero's eyes began to burn once again in jealousy at James and rage at his words.
Because of you, the only people she had in this world, her family, was brutally murdered in the most sadistic of ways. The imps painted the walls of the castle nursery in the king and queen's blood, while her unborn baby sister was ripped from the queen's womb and nailed to the wall like a hunting trophy.
Oh man, that sounds like something I would put in one of my novels. I felt sick to my stomach just imagining it, despite not wanting to in the first place. The imagery was too much, but Zero continued without mercy.
Sayer had to watch her kingdom burn before her eyes and listen to the screams of her people when she returned from the human world after hunting you all down. It was only after the siege when she saw the fate of her own family.
Zero finally straightened up. At the sight, he looked powerful and strong, but his eyes burned with anger and rage as he glared at James. For the first time in my life, I saw fear run through James's eyes.
Yet you all claim innocence. You all know nothing of innocence! Enough said!
Everyone shot their heads towards Diana's voice to see her standing in the corner of the room, shrouded by shadow. However, I could faintly see tears running down Diana's cheeks despite the terrifying anger on her face towards Zero.
You will not speak of the past again, Zero. Understood?
Yes, my lady.
Diana finally stepped away from the corner and stood in front of Zero and across from James, uncaring towards the rogue tears running down her face.
What's done is done. We can't ever change the past, no matter how desperately we try. What matters now is preparing for the Demon Lord and the final battle.
James nodded. It was a sour note to end on, but Diana's words were the truth. We couldn't linger on pointing fingers and having doubts now. Diana ran a hand through her hair and looked around the room, pressing her lips into a fine line.
So, about all of you participating in the war, you all obviously need to train.
Everyone nodded in agreement to Diana's statement. While we weren't battle-ready, we still needed to at least know how to defend ourselves. Diana, however, looked to me.
You, most of all.
Huh? Me? I was suddenly confused. How come I was the odd one out that had to be ready the most? Because the demon lord wants to kill you and the angels want to take away your memories, you nut job. Jesus, Anderson. The last thing I remembered about me training was that Diana was against the idea altogether. Diana sighed and rubbed her temple. I love that that's a thing that she does.
Apparently, there are guidelines to breaking this curse. Not only do we have to kill the demon lord, but you have to be nearby when it happens for the curse to even break.
Ah. So we have to be on the battlefield. That makes no sense. Where did you learn this?
Shadow. He spent the night trying to find alternative ways to break your curse. Unfortunately, we didn't find anything of the sort, but we found the guidelines to breaking it.
Well, it still makes no sense.
Even while it doesn't, it's still better to be safe than sorry. I don't want to kill him and then still have you stuck here because of an error.
I could only sigh and take it in. So I had to be there when the demon lord fell. Great. Diana waved her hand dismissively through the air, breaking my potential thoughts.
Anyway, we can't have you dying on the way there, and we can't monitor you when we're in battle. You should at least know how to defend yourself. That's why we've come up with a solution.
Huh? What solution?
Simple. The other rebel leaders and Sarah have agreed that if you'd like a trainer to enhance your abilities, you can train with one of them.
Oh, do we get to choose somebody to train with? Guys, could we train with Bay? Can this happen? I stared, seeing Sarah step forward with a nod.
Each of the leaders is proficient in a different area of magic and battle strategy, good enough for self-defense. I can't speak for the others, but I can assure you that with Sarah's skill and training methods, you will be well prepared by the time the siege arrives.
Sarah nodded and bowed to me slightly. While I was flattered at the idea, did I really need a trainer? I knew Taekwondo and I at least knew how to defend myself, demon or not. Then again, we were in the demon world where magic was the norm. Okay. So, there's 4 others, if I remember correctly. There's Shadow, there's Sergeant, there's Rabbit, and there's, Faye. I think her name is. So there's 4 of them, and then Sarah. So I'm wondering how to split these between the guys. I guess that Sarah hates James personally, it might be cool to train with Sarah for now. Maybe with Sarah we could be like, I don't need a trainer. Obviously we need a trainer though, like it's not even the thing, we actually need a trainer. I'd like to train with Sarah, let's do it. Sarah seems skilled enough to train me. He was Diana's right hand after all, and he was the one who apparently stopped the Demon Lord from getting his hands on me. I at least had to give it a shot. Sarah nodded and looked at Diana, who crossed her arms.
Very well. You've made a good choice, I assure you.
With that, Diana turned on her heel and left the room.
Finish eating. Afterwards, you should start training.
Frankie, did you say you prefer Caddy? I don't know if that's true, Frankie. I know, right, Gwen? Like, I don't even know. Like, oh my god, Shadow, though. Like, Shadow is, like, the bae of all baes. I don't know. I kind of feel like when I'm doing Matthew's route, I want to pick Shadow. Because, like, Matthew's attractive, but he's also really adorable, and I feel like Shadow's super hotness would balance that out a little bit. And then I feel like if I did something like play Shadow during Eric's route, it would just be like hotness overload, and I would just keel over and die. I don't even know. Cookie! How's it going? What's up, Mama? Everything's okay, I guess. Still working on my novel, you know, still hanging here with you guys. As always, loving it. Trying my best to not fall asleep wherever I am. Trying my best to stay positive. You know, the world is kind of a crazy place at the moment. Everyone nodded in the room in the room nodded their affirmation as Diana and Sarah left.
Well, it looks like we'll be busy for the next couple of days.
This'll be fun.
Man, training's gonna suck.
It'll be worth it, though.
Damien's right.
Truth. As we finished eating, everyone left to either train or do things on their own. I left to start my own work, determined to be prepared for what was to come. The Demon Lord wasn't going to win. I wouldn't let him. Alright, and this is obviously where the stuff branches. I chose to train with Sero. He seemed to be very skilled, so I trusted him to train me to the best of his ability. I didn't want to be a silent observer in this war. I would pull my weight. Yeah, Gwen, we super missed you. I'm so happy that you're back. I hope your trip was okay besides crazy. Yeah. Oh, bye, Gwen. Sarah brought me to the Grand Hall, which he had apparently claimed as his personal training grounds, as Sergeant had to use the official grounds for the army. Well, this is a cool place. Personal training grounds?
When I train my lady, I bring her here. That way she is not seen by the army.
Why would her being seen by the army be an issue?
It's not a matter of it being an issue. We simply choose to train together alone.
I nodded. If Diana had her reasons, that was enough for me. Sero nodded in return before holding his hand out to the side.
Now, do you have a preferred weapon of choice? Choose wisely. You need to focus and master one weapon if you wish to benefit from this training. I won't allow you to change your mind later.
Oh, we get to choose a weapon?! Ah! I stared at Sarah, unsure of why he would ask me that. However, I closed my eyes and thought to myself for a moment. There were a couple of weapons I could think of. I thought of a gun, but what if human guns were powerless here? Well, there were those special guns that Malix was waving around, and that James had in that dream. After all, demons had magic on their side. If they were powerful enough, maybe even a speeding bullet could be blocked with ease. I sighed and thought of what melee weapon I could use. I feel like since he fights with a spear, that a spear would make the most sense, right? Sarah closed his eyes and closed his outstretched hand into his soft fist. Black and purple mist slowly formed around his hand and wrapped around itself like a spiral in the crevice between his fingers and palm. Also, my D&D character fought with a great spear, so spears make me happy. The magic elongated and formed a black spear with a white, almost lavender blade at the tip. Sarah walked over to me and handed me the spear, letting me feel the light weight of it in my hand. It was almost feather-like, yet my hand knew that this was a weapon.
You chose a very underestimated and difficult weapon.
Truth. Well, you use it, don't you?
I do, but it's taken me years of training to know how to wield it properly.
No time like the present. Sarah laughed softly and stepped back, gripping his own gold spear and going into a stance. I followed suit.
Trust your instincts. I'll go slow so you can adjust yourself to the weapon. However, I won't remain slow for long.
I see he's got a nice slash across his chest, too. Probably a blow he took for Diana. I stared at Sarah, now fully settling into what I had signed up for. I was learning how to defend myself and possibly how to kill someone else. I felt a nervous shiver run up my spine before taking a breath and trying to relax my muscles. Sarah seemed to take my breath as my signal to prepare as he took a step back and readied himself with a stance.
Are you ready?
I nodded. I'd asked to be trained. If I wasn't ready then, I wouldn't ever be. Sarah crouched down, gripping his spear before lunging at me, ready to skewer me on its blade. Dodge! Oh god, guys, this is time! What the fuck am I doing? I reflexively jumped away, avoiding the tip of his blade as I stepped to the side. I stared wide-eyed at how far he had thrust his spear, jamming it all the way through the space I was previously in. Was he really trying to kill me? I smirked this time and swung my spear in front of me, swiping his weapon away from my body. He was now open for me to attack. Perfect. I would show him how serious I was. I felt powerful as I readied to attack him. I lunged in and prepared to pierce him with my own attack. However, Sarah moved his spear across his body, blocking my attack and pushing me back. I growled at myself for not seeing the strength of his defense. As I landed, though, I saw a small smirk on Sarah's face. Was he proud of me, or was he mocking me? Either way, I used the momentum to lunge forward again, continuing our sparring match. Oh, got dark. We continued to train relentlessly through the day. Each break we had was small, but I understood why. I only had a week to learn how to fight after all. Time wasn't on our side when it came to me learning how to fight, or at least defend myself. As we finished sparring session and slowed to take another break, I let out a sigh. I was exhausted, but I knew I had to keep going. If the incubi were going to keep training, then I had to keep up as well. Sarah let out a small sigh and stretched, wiping some sweat from the side of his brow before looking to me.
Let's take a break for now.
Yeah, good idea. I collapsed onto the floor onto my rear and slouched over my crossed legs, thankful to no longer be on my feet. I thought Taekwondo was hard, but fighting with a weapon was proving itself to be even harder. I felt a little nervous. I felt a little envious for people who weren't able to master weaponry.
I have to admit, I'm impressed. For the first time holding a weapon, you did pretty well. My lady had to train for months to try and use her weapon properly.
I wonder what her weapon of choice is. Well, what does Diana use? I was curious about her. I knew she had magic, but did she really need a weapon? Of course, if her energy ran out, then she would need some sort of protection. Sarah stared wide-eyed at me for a second before smiling softly.
She uses a saber, a curved sword.
Nice!
While regular straight swords are good for piercing your opponent, curved blades are made for slashing and cutting your opponent down.
Correct.
They're a little difficult to maneuver without in-depth training.
Sarah looked down at his hand, forming a saber with a black grip and a deep purple blade. It looked like a masterwork blade despite it forming out of his magic. As Sarah stared at it, his smile brightened a bit.
A saber is much more graceful in combat than a regular sword. Anyone can wield it, but it takes a true master of the blade to use a saber properly and make a fight look like an elegant dance.
I was in awe. I could see a soft shadow of adoration in his eyes as he spoke. Did he really adore his mistress that much? Yeah, I would say he wants to bone her, but he already has. You seem to really care for Diana. Sarah looked at me with a chuckle.
I don't just care for my lady.
That was obvious. The way he spoke about her spoke volumes of his affections for her. As Sarah looked at me, a flash of realization washed over his eyes. What?
You're human, so you would understand.
Understand what?
Love.
I stared at him, knowing the meaning of the word but not understanding what he meant by saying it. He's in love with Diana! Get over it! What about love?
Well...
For a moment, Sarah looked back to the saber in his hand before shaking his head.
Never mind. It's nothing.
I wanted to ask more, but a pair of footsteps echoed through the room from the door, causing me to turn around and see who it was. Diana, lightly glistening with a thin layer of sweat and wiping her brow, stepped into the room with a smile. I could hear Sarah's breath hitch softly as Diana walked in. She did a small hair toss, most likely to get some cool air behind her neck before looking to her guard and my trainer.
How is training going?
Going fine, my lady. How are the heirs?
They're strong, but not strong enough. At least not yet. It will take more time to get them up to par with where they need to be for the war. They've been in the human world for too long, and they've lost their sense of real battle.
In haste, Diana looked at me and held up her hand towards me as if to ask for forgiveness.
No offense to you, of course.
It's alright. I understood. The human world was vastly different from the demon world, so the boys had become humanized and softened. Still, I was sure they would train hard to become better than the demon lord.
Anyway, I was just taking a break and wanted to check in. Had to make sure you didn't kill our guest, Sarah.
I would never!
Diana's laughter filled the room as Sarah's face brightened to a hot pink tinge.
I'm merely joking. I trust you, Sarah. Besides, she can take care of herself.
Diana looked at me with a nod and a smile as if she knew that I would be okay, at least in Sarah's hands.
I'll leave you both be then. I'm sure that after we're finished training, your husband will want to replenish his energy. And it wouldn't do if you were still training here when he finishes.
Yeah, your husband will want a bone, so just be ready for that. With that, Diana turned and walked out of the room. Sarah and I kept our eyes on her before I looked over to see the suddenly love-struck guard. His eyes were glued to the door that Diana left, almost unblinking. Let him stare for a little longer. There was no harm in letting him be weird for a little while. As he stared at the door, I stretched my neck. Finally, Sarah snapped out of it and looked at me, blushing and wide-eyed.
Sorry. Where were we?
Training.
Training! Right. Let's go again.
In a complete reversal, Sarah's expression hardened to a serious stare at me. I nodded, knowing that the break we had was now over. Once more, we trained and continued until dinner rolled around. At the soft echo of dinner-time bells reverberated through the halls of the castle, Sarah and I went our separate ways. Him to his lady, and me to my bedroom. Okay, so it's obvious what's going to happen here. Great thing about this game is that you can completely choose to skip over the sex scenes without it affecting the game. I have to skip over the sex scenes in this game. I tried to go through the first one, and the description was just way too graphic. You know, there are terms of service that Twitch has that I have to follow. I know you guys are going to be upset, but I can't stream that kind of stuff. I thought that this game might maybe lessen up a little bit on that stuff, but it looks like it's like even worse. So, yeah, forgive me please, but I have to skip it. It's not a matter of me wanting to, me wanting to show it or not wanting to show it. I can't because of Twitch's terms of service. I know it sucks, but I think we can all agree, or at least I hope we can all agree, that it's not worth getting the channel shut down. So I'm sorry, but we can't. I have to skip over them, unfortunately. If you want to experience them, you should get the game yourself. It's on sale until I believe the 15th on Steam. So maybe you guys should go buy it yourself. Yeah. I returned to my room that night, wondering how things had come to this. My body was exhausted, but my mind was running 100 miles an hour. I had to be physically near the Demon Lord when he died? How specific was this curse? As I sat on the bed, I ran my hands through my hair and over my face, attempting to ease the nerves beneath my skin. Despite it not working as well as I'd hoped, I found my mind organizing my thoughts constructively. I was training for a reason, after all. I was working to make sure I survived this war and was able to go home with James, the man I loved. Yeah, that's true. You want to make sure that you're like alive and shit. However, just thinking about him brought back the memories of Sarah screaming and Diana crying. Was it really James's fault that Diana's family was killed? No, it was not. All James wanted was his freedom. As I thought of him, James entered the room and spotted me, a tired smile growing on his face. I smiled back, matching his exhaustion.
You look worn out.
So do you. James chuckled slightly and walked over, sitting beside me. I felt myself instinctively scoot closer to his body and lay my head on his shoulder. That simple move made my body almost sink into his. When did James ever feel this warm? James's arm wrapped around my waist and pulled me closer. As he placed a kiss on my head, I could only hum happily.
So, about sleeping tonight.
I looked up to James, wondering where the question came from. It was random, and I didn't understand what he meant until I stretched back into my thoughts. The angels. James nodded. He was right. How was I supposed to sleep when the angels were after me? They could reach into my dreams and remove my memories without me being able to fight back, at least not without Sarah's or Diana's help. Yeah, that's going to be an issue. It wasn't fair to depend on them, especially after remembering what Sarah confessed this morning. James, however, gently turned me in his arms and face him. Turned me in his arms to face him. I looked up at him, wondering what he was up to. Let's stay quiet. I waited for James to do whatever he needed to do. I trusted him, and he obviously wanted to do something to help me. James gently ran his thumbs over the sides of my face, tracing over the edges of my eyes and cheekbones. I felt small wisps of energy dance over my nerves and closed my eyes gently, becoming lost in the sensation. I could faintly see golden light piercing through the darkness on my eyelids, so I kept my eyes closed, confident that it was the best thing to do. A warmth enveloped my head, filling my thoughts with pure calm and serenity. It felt almost too unreal. As the light faded away, I opened my eyes to meet the loving gaze of my incubus. He gently caressed my cheeks and placed his forehead against mine, closing his eyes with a smile. I felt joy wash over me as he held my head close to him.
There. That should work.
What did you do?
A small mind barrier spell. It's been a long time since I've used a spell like that. Simple, but hopefully effective.
I nodded before gently nuzzling James. It had to work. It absolutely had to work. My heart swelled and hoped that everything would be okay. Alright. We could hug him or kiss him before sleeping. We're gonna save. It looks like we get 1 point towards his good ending regardless, so I assume... I don't know. I assume hugging him will skip the sex scene. I got my arms around James and he returned the embrace.
Everything will be okay, alright? I promise.
I nodded against his chest, feeling his confidence. He was right. We would be okay. As we both laid back to sleep that night, James's spell was tested. Floating in the darkness, a dream was never the same every time. Sometimes I'd be floating in water, other times I would be flying through air. The experience over my nerves changed every time, and I could never prepare myself for what dream or nightmare would come. Sounds like me. You wanna draw the Chu-Chu Club, frags? That night, however, I found myself once again in a jail cell. Oh, no. Huh? I didn't understand. Why was I here again? Why was I once again trapped in a cell? I looked down at my body to see my regular clothes still on. There was no shackle attached to my ankle, and I was as free as I could be. That was different. Still, I had to be on guard. I quickly stood and walked up to the cell door, running my hands over the metal. At the mere touch of my hands, the door slowly swung open, releasing me and allowing me to leave its dark cage. Another difference. I stepped forward, looking up and down the hall I was in. There were no screams, no cries. It was as silent as the grave. That worried me and made me feel uneasy. Despite the relief, I felt that the dream was not the same as the nightmare I'd had before. At least that's what I'd hoped. Oh. A sudden cry of pain echoed down the hall, causing me to look over in the direction it erupted from. My heart stopped for a moment, recognizing the voice. James? My body rushed on its own to his voice, now desperate to find him. Why was he in pain? Who was hurting him? At last I arrived at the door, barely opened a crack. I peeked in and gasped at what I saw. Oh, God, guys! Chained to the far wall was James, his body twitching in pain as he desperately attempted to free himself. I stared in shock as my eyes took in a cross burnt onto his chest that seemed to sizzle over his flesh. Oh yeah, I see it right there behind the... accept your fate, I assume that last part is?
Never.
As James replied to the voice, the mark on his chest began to glow a hot red and yellow color, burning further into his skin. I unconsciously ran my hand over the chest in sympathy, wincing at the sight. Stay hidden or bust in. We tend to like to bust in these situations, don't we? Yeah, busting in gives us 1 point. Yeah, we're not gonna let this shit go down. It's a dream anyway. I needed to stop whatever this was. Dream or not, James was in pain. I threw the door open and rushed in, revealing everything in the room. However, the only person in it was James himself, who was now staring at me wide-eyed in fear. James!
Stay back!
The mark on his began to burn brighter on his skin, ushering me to rush forward and pull his bonds to set him free. The steel bonds held fast against the wall, not moving an inch.
I would rather burn than let you touch her!
Oh. I stared at James wide-eyed. Was he doing this to protect me? Was this happening because of the protection spell he cast on me? I didn't get a chance to think on it long, however. A bright flash of light erupted from James's body and I shut my eyes, blinded by the sight. James! My eyes refused to open until I felt myself awaken. I shut up in bed, gasping and clutching at my chest. My heart pounded inside of my ribs at a frightening pace as I recalled images from my dream. Despite it not ending with me being attacked, it ended with James getting hurt. As I thought of James, I quickly looked over to see him fast asleep. Luckily, I didn't scream to wake him this time, so I felt relieved that he wasn't ripped from his own rest. My heartbeat began to slow as I took a deep breath and let it out. It was a dream. I ran over my eyes and rubbed them gently. Ran my palms over my eyes and rubbed them gently, calming down at last. I had to get through this. I had to keep my sanity about me. Yet something in my gut wouldn't let me let this dream go. Something inside of me ushered me to keep thinking about it, as if I was missing something. Was I overlooking something important? How could that have been? I shook my head and slowly laid back down, curling up against James and closing my eyes again. I had to rest. I had to let it go for now. I would figure this out later. Darkness greeted me and I was safe until the morning. What are we missing? What is she missing? Besides the obvious fact that we don't know who was doing this to him. I woke up in James's arms once more, slowly blinking the sleep from my eyes as my vision focused on his chest. As I stared, I vaguely pictured the crossburn over his skin, was relieved to find no such thing there in reality. It had just been a dream. I looked up to see James smiling down at me softly before he kissed my forehead.
Good morning. Did you have a good rest?
I remembered the nightmare and suddenly became unsure of whether or not the truth was something he wanted to hear. I did rest, but I did wake up from that nightmare during the night. Was it worth telling him? I assume we're supposed to be honest? Yeah. I couldn't lie. I shook my head and the smile on James's face disappeared. As much as it would make him unhappy, it was better to let him know the results of his spell. I wasn't attacked by angels or anything, but you were.
I was.
I ran my hand over his chest, imagining the burn from the dream emblazoned on his skin. You were bolted to a wall and had this cross cut in your chest. It was burning and you were arguing with a voice in the air.
A cross. So it was an angel's work.
Yeah, I would think so. Why, though? James closed his eyes in thought, trying to figure out why himself. But as he opened his eyes to look at me, his smile did not return.
The spell I cast to protect you placed an image of me in your mind, like a guardian. If they came, my spell would have forced them to attack me instead. Luckily, it worked.
James ran his hand over my cheek.
However, you still went through a nightmare, and for that I am sorry.
No, don't be. You protected me. So the dream was part of his spell. I felt relieved that it worked. The side effect was an image of James being hurt, but at least it wasn't actually him. I ran my hand over James's cheek, smiling softly. Thank you. At last, James's smile reappeared before he softly took my hand and kissed my palm.
All for you, love.
A knock on the door, however, interrupted our moment together.
Who is it?
Diana, I have food for you both.
I looked at the door as James called out for her to enter. The door opened to reveal Diana with 2 plates of food, the same meal we had the day prior. She walked over and handed the plates to us before stepping back.
I assume that you both had a good rest.
Yes, actually. We've worked out the angel problem for now.
Diana raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms, but nodded in reply. Looking at Diana, however, I could see small, dark circles beneath her eyes. Did she not rest last night? Probably not. Let's leave her alone for now. We'll be a different version of Anderson. Probably the one that romances Sam will be a little more pushy, but not this Anderson. There was no need to ask about what was going on. If she worked through the night, then she worked. It was not my place to ask why. Diana turned on her heel and began to walk out of the room, but she stopped at the archway to look back at me.
If any angels come your way again, tell me.
With that foreboding warning, Diana left, leaving James and I unable to reply. What could we say to that? James had already placed a spell on me to protect me, and he seemed to be just fine. We would be fine. James and I ate our food before separating to train. I went to the grand hall, knowing Sarah would either be there or expecting me or would arrive there shortly after me. Nevertheless, I was ready to train again with him. What I didn't expect was to see Sarah and Diana in the room. I quickly ducked back around the corner and listened, not wanting to disturb them if they were talking.
That damn little... How dare she...
My lady, please, calm down.
Wait, what? What was going on?
No, Zero, it is not alright. That selfish brat had the nerve to...
Zaire, please. I'm alright, I swear.
Stop talking and let me finish.
Diana's harsh tone echoed through the hall out of the doorway before a soft sigh followed. I peered around the corner and watched as Diana ran her hand along Cero's cheek gingerly, tracing a mark on it with her fingers. Radiant purple light emanated from her hand as Diana glided it back and forth over Cero's skin. Cero, however, had a small smile painted over his lips as he watched her work.
Damn her to the deepest pits of hell!
You're being too harsh, my lady.
Buskaya is being a selfish brat, Cero. I saved her from dying, and this is how she repays me? Ungrateful little...
Oh, who's Bushkaya? I didn't understand what was happening, but I could tell there was another woman involved, someone named Bushkaya. What was really odd was that Diana was acting strange. She was upset over something a girl did to Cero. It was kind of cute, but it was not what I expected from Diana.
You're being adorable right now.
Diana suddenly stopped moving and looked up at Cero in surprise. A large blush splashed across her cheeks. Cero, growing bolder, gently lifted a hand up between them and placed it under her chin, lifting her head slightly.
I promise that I'm all right. She barely scratched me.
But she...
Loves her mistress very much, just like I do. She couldn't help it. I did try to surprise you, after all. She was startled and wanted to protect you, just like I would have.
Diana grumbled, pressing her lips into a fine line as she stared down at his chest.
She still attacked you.
Which I'm sure she's very sorry for. Let it go.
Cero moved his hand to cup Diana's cheek, rubbing his thumb along her cheekbone. Diana closed her eyes, but didn't lean into his hand.
You know, you didn't yell at me for saying your name.
My priority was not correcting you.
You were concerned about me.
Yes, I was. Why wouldn't I be?
Cero frowned a bit as Diana opened her eyes and looked up at him, trying to appear unfazed at his teasing. However, the blush that still radiated from her face didn't lie. Just kiss already!
Why are you concerned about me, Zaire? You've protected me my whole life when it's my job to protect you. You didn't correct me again.
Silence followed as Cero waited for her to answer. I was curious myself, especially since she seemed to not reciprocate Cero's feelings. Diana closed her eyes and took a small breath before finally replying.
I care about you, Cero. You've been by my side ever since we were mere children. Every time you've gotten hurt, I
watched in awe as Diana brought her hand up and ran her fingers along the scar on his chest between the lapels of his jacket. Cero stared as Diana traced it around it, her face painted in sadness.
I know you vowed to protect me with your life, but that doesn't mean you must accept every wound on your body as insignificant.
Diana closed her eyes, forming a fist against Cero's chest and clenching it hard. The scar must have had some significance to make her that upset. I knew he took that wound for Diana. I bit my lower lip. I was watching this unfold, unsure of what to do. Should I leave them be? Should I interrupt? I did have to train. We're gonna let them finish. I didn't want to be rude. Whatever they had to settle, I needed to be patient. I stuck to the wall behind me and listened further, peeking to barely see what was going on.
It still bothers me. I thought I was going to lose you that day.
But you stepped in.
I did. That was the day before you signed your life away to me. A stupid decision.
I stared wide-eyed as Cero cupped Diana's cheek and forced her to look up at him, making her gasp and meet his gaze in surprise.
Stop. I won't let you think that my decision was a mistake.
Diana closed her eyes and leaned her cheek ever so slightly against Cero's hand, making him visibly inhale a breath of surprise.
I don't think I will ever understand you. Even after all of these years, I still don't understand your devotion.
Diana let out a small sigh before stepping away and looking up at Cero with a serious expression.
I should go. The boys will be waiting for me to train them, and your student will be here soon.
Without letting Cero reply, Diana turned and walked towards the door. Oh, ice cold, man. I stepped away from my hiding spot, not wanting Diana to know I was eavesdropping. As I came into her view, she froze for a second before continuing out of the room and down the hall. Cero watched as she left, staring at the back of her head until it vanished beyond the doorframe. I looked over and finally walked towards Cero, not wanting to interrupt his gaze at my presence.
She really can't see it.
Maybe she sees it, but, you know... Hold on. Sorry. Sarah. Sarah finally turned and looked at me with eyes drowned in hopelessness. It was almost heartbreaking to see his face so heavy and downtrodden. He seemed to have completely confided in me with this new expression because I was positive this was an emotion he hid very well from almost everyone. Sarah finally looked to the ground.
My lady doesn't understand love. She's always been told that love for her is impossible because of who she is, no matter how much she dreams of it. Because of that, she can't recognize it, even when it's standing right in front of her.
There has to be a way. It was a matter of circumstance. She needed to see his love for her. If she was bred to accept that love didn't exist, then we needed to prove that what she knew was wrong. Sarah looked up at me in surprise, a small glimmer of hope rekindling at my words.
You really think that she...
I know she can. I mean, look at me. I'm going to be married to the man I love. Surely love exists even for demons. I watched with a smile as I saw happiness slowly seep back into Sarah's expression. He couldn't give up on her. He would be able to show her his love somehow. After a brief moment, Sarah let out a sigh, closing his eyes. He turned to me, and when he opened his eyes, my relentless trainer had appeared with a serious look on his face. Without having to say anything to me, he stepped back and summoned his spear. That was a fast turnaround. He placed a foot behind him and prepped himself into a stance. Wait, wasn't he going to materialize my weapons? How was I... Sarah suddenly charged at me, making me screech and dodge out of the way. What was he doing? Yeah, you're not gonna... Look, the enemy's not gonna wait for you to ready your weapon, alright? Sarah!
What are you waiting for? Summon your weapons!
What? He wasn't being serious, right? He expected me to use magic? That was impossible. As I managed to duck and dodge my attacks, my fingertips began to tingle. Energy rushed through my veins and under my skin, tickling my nerves. It was unnatural, but somehow I felt comfortable with it. Was this truly magic at work, or was I just nervous, not wanting to be skewered? Try. I had to try. I jumped away from Sarah and quickly closed my eyes, focusing on my hands. I needed my weapon. Within my hands formed a rod of lavender mist. It glistened before finally shifting and forming into the spear I was used to. Gripping it and feeling it physically in my hand, I smirked and turned back to Sarah, bracing for another attack. Parry! I smirked this time and swung my spear in front of me, swiping his spear away from my body. He was now open for an attack, the same stuff. Like a repeated memory, I attacked him, clashing my weapon with his multiple times. The chime of our weapons smashing against each other rang through the room, the sound almost piercing to my mind. It wasn't a noise I was ever going to be used to. Like the last time, we trained for hours on end, stopping once or twice for a break. However, I could feel my body slowly getting used to the feel of swinging a weapon and defending myself. At least I would be prepared in case something were to happen. As the sun began to set and the purple sky began to darken, we stopped once again for a third and most likely final break. Sarah stretched and let out a small yawn as I did the same. I think I'm getting used to this. A chuckle escaped Sarah's throat as he rose from one of his stretches. What stopped both of us from laughing was an echoed conversation in the hall, softly reverberating into the room. Huh?
Are you sure? Another kingdom wants to join the rebellion?
It would seem so. Diana isn't happy about it, though.
I would agree with Diana. That sounds suspicious as fuck.
Why not? The leader of that kingdom is so handsome!
He was indeed. But an alliance through marriage?
Oh, come on! You can't tell me I'm the only one who can see it!
Oh no.
I can see them being a beautiful king and queen!
Oh, here we go. We're gonna have to choose between having her fight for true love or doing what's right for the... Okay. So, see, if my character was a harder Anderson, probably like the one I'm gonna romance Sam with, she would be like, you gotta do what's right for the kingdom. I can't imagine this version of Anderson being like, you know, go ahead, marry the guy that you don't like. Yeah, like, really. Cookie, I want to see your rainbow hair when you get it. That's amazing.
I don't think she will marry him, despite it being a wise choice.
She would be stupid not to.
Well, the last time she signed her life away to marriage, her entire family was killed off while she was away. I don't think she could ever let marriage control her again.
I guess Man, the only person she has now is that guard.
My curiosity took a hold of me and caused me to hug the wall near the door, listening in further. Sero, however, remained where he was, looking toward the ground. Hold on, guys. I'm, like, dying and my phone is going crazy. Oh my god. Anyway, my curiosity...
I wonder how they met. He's not an incubus, but he's mega powerful.
He is indeed very skilled. I'm slightly jealous of her for having such a devoted guard.
Devoted? He's crazy! I've heard them talk in private before. He keeps saying that he's in love with her. Love!
That is very odd. However, I wouldn't be surprised if her natural aura has affected him after years of servitude. I believe he's been with her since they were children, so that's over 100 years of protecting her and being close.
Yeah, he's probably just enthralled by her. She enthralls everyone she meets.
A pure-blooded succubus will do that. At least she's the only pure-blooded demon of Lilith in the world.
That we know of, at least.
The conversation trailed off as the pair moved away from the room, and I looked back at Sero, seeing him grip his spear and grit his teeth. He didn't seem to like what Rabbit and Faye had to say. I wouldn't be surprised. I would agree. Sero? I'm gonna not say anything. The look on his face made it obvious that he needed a moment to himself. I waited patiently until he finally took a deep breath and smiled at me.
Let's just continue, shall we?
I nodded, taking up my weapon again and preparing for our final sparring match. The day end. I'm gonna save because I can't speak. I'm dumb. Show us your drawings, Frags. The day at last ended, and I wound up slowly walking towards my room. I was tired and ready to hit the pillow, but as I entered, I stared at who was there waiting for me. Sero? Why was Sero here? I just finished training with him. This made absolutely no sense, but yet there he was, staring hard at me as if I'd done something wrong.
Do you know what a stone destiny is?
A stone destiny? I never heard of such a thing. Did it have something to do with angels? I tilted my head, making Sero sigh and lower his head.
A stone destiny binds a person's entire life towards a specific direction. It could be for good, it could be for evil. However, when a stone destiny is set, almost nothing can stop it from taking its course.
Why are you bringing this up? Sero looked up at me and closed his eyes, resolved in explaining to me whatever was on his mind. What he told me, however, shocked me.
I believe that your fiancé is locked in a stone destiny.
What? Yeah, what? That made no sense. James was locked in a stone destiny? What did that have to do with anything? Where did this come from? As Sero watched my expression, he continued to speak.
There is only one way to forge a stone destiny. By making a deal with angels. If someone is willing to give angels something worthy, the angels can set and seal someone's life as if in stone. If anything threatens to destroy that destiny, the angels step in.
That was it. That was why the angels were after me. If James was tied to a stone destiny, then the only reason they were attacking me was because I was in the way of his fate. How could that be, though? What was his destiny? Maybe the father did it to tie him to Diana? To become the next demon lord? Something in my mind clicked at the thought. Of course, that had to be it. I had taken James away from his destiny and was about to marry him. Of course they would be after me. I sat on my bed, shocked and astonished at the news. I felt somewhat relieved that James and I had found a way to stop them, but I still felt the weight of the new information sinking into my thoughts. Sarah stepped towards the door and closed it, looking to me.
Breaking a stone destiny is nearly impossible. Nearly.
I looked up at him, anxiousness growing as he repeated the word. There was a way to fix this and set James free? Then how can we set him free from it?
By giving him enough energy to do so himself.
I stared. It made sense, but giving him energy meant probably sleeping with him. I didn't have much of a problem with it, but sex wasn't something I wanted to do just because it had to be done. It was better to make love when the people were. It was better to make love when the people involved were in the mood to do so, rather than because they had to. Sarah turned back to the door.
He is a powerful incubus, but he isn't powerful enough to break through his destiny unless you help him.
Before he left, however, I stopped him. Something seemed off with Sarah being the one to tell me. Sarah, why are you telling me instead of Diana telling me?
She isn't aware of it. Not many demons know of it or even believe it to be an actual occurrence.
Then how do you know about it? Sarah seemed to stand still, letting the silence linger in the air. The room began to feel off as Sarah stood in his place. I'd felt this feeling before, but I couldn't pin down where. Is this really Sarah? Is somebody messing with us? Finally, Sarah slowly turned his head to me. Oh, that's right, he's half angel. I forgot about that. That just hit me in the face. Turned his head to me, causing me to suddenly gasp at what was revealed. In his gold eyes were crosses, glowing a dark black where his pupils were. The feeling of feathers once again danced around me, causing me to quiver slightly.
Does that answer your question?
That's right, he's half angel. I totally forgot. I nodded, but slowly but frightfully. Sarah was an angel? How? We already went through this. He looked like a demon. No one mentioned him being anything close to an angel other than him using holy magic. Oh yeah, he didn't really say he was part angel. He said that he could use holy magic. Did Diana not know either? How is this hidden? So he's not even like part demon. He's an angel. Sarah closed his eyes and relaxed a bit as he pressed his lips into a fine line.
I love my lady. I would follow her to the ends of the 5 worlds if she demanded it of me. To see the man she was bound to wed here, blocked by a destiny that would have taken my love away long ago. It's maddening. The longer he stays here, the more dangerous his destiny becomes. I've seen visions of what would come to pass if his destiny is fulfilled, and I will do everything to make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, good, you and I are on the same page as far as that's concerned. I could see the jealousy in Sarah's eyes once again. Something burned heavily in Sarah's gaze and didn't dare fade away as he gripped his spear in a white-knuckled grip.
My lady is a queen deserving of the world, not a harem girl for him to ravage in a cage.
Memories of the nightmare I'd had long ago flicked in my head. Diana had been in a cage beside me. Did Sarah see the same thing? I didn't get the chance to ask. Sarah relaxed a bit and slightly glared at me. I could tell he was holding back some form of intimidation as he was my trainer, but the threat he spoke still echoed in my ears.
Do not speak of what I am to anyone, or I will set your destiny to die at your husband's hand.
Wow! Sarah! What the fuck, dude? Without letting me reply, Sarah turned and left the room, leaving me alone to absorb what happened. I felt the air in the room slowly drift back to normal, but I felt nowhere close to it. How was this happening? Why was this happening? Everything began to clash in my head, causing it to pound heavily in confusion and stress. My thoughts were interrupted as the door opened again, revealing James.
Love? Are you alright?
James. Get up and smooch his butt. I couldn't control myself. Oh, new music. I needed some relief from this entire situation, and I usually found it in James's embrace and against his lips. I stood from the bed and walked over to him, wrapping my arms around him and pulling him into a kiss. James was taken by surprise, gasping against my lips before wrapping his arms around my waist and kissing me back. I let my mind sink into a blank state as I drowned myself in the kiss between us. However, I knew partly why I was doing this, to give James energy. If his energy was what he needed to fight this, then I was willing to feed it to him. James pulled away slightly and looked down at me. As he looked into my eyes, he stared in soft surprise and confusion.
Love, is everything alright?
Should we kiss him again? Yeah. I didn't want him to tell him what happened. I didn't want him to know what was on my mind. I simply needed to help him in the only way I could, and I needed to not think about what was happening. I pulled him back and kissed him that much harder, wrapping my hands behind his head and gripping to him tightly. James didn't question me further and tightened his embrace around me, deepening the kiss. Our mouths battled in a dance of dominance, with James winning and me giving in to his passion. I found myself growing weak in the knees with the kiss between us, but at the same time I was floating in a mental cloud 9. My mind knew I could stop now. If he asked, I would come up with an excuse for my behavior, but I was slowly getting into the direction I was taking James toward. As one of his hands slowly slid down my back and hooked itself under my leg and behind my knee, I knew that this was my one chance to pull away before I let myself dive into a most needed sexual ride. It looks like this choice doesn't matter. This was far enough. I was fine with where we were and I'd given him a good amount of energy. There was no need to go any farther than that. Yeah, I can't do the sex scenes, unfortunately. I slowly pulled away, staring up at James lovingly. As he took in the sensation, he smiled curiously at me.
I assume you had a good day?
I just missed you, that's all. I did miss him. A day without him was like waiting for him to get off of work. When he returned, my world felt a bit brighter. Besides, it was a good excuse to give him energy without him worrying. James, taking the time to calm down, chuckled and laid his forehead on mine.
I love you.
I love you too. Okay. So I think we're going to stop here. I'm still trying to preserve my voice. It's still a little off. And I'm having a bit of a headache. I don't know what's going on, guys. I'll probably stream... I'm probably going to stream something else, but I think for now, I'm going to pause with Seduce Me. But I'll stick in the chat. Maybe we'll play some more Rogue Legacy, something. I don't know. We'll pick up another game. But I'm going to take a quick break first, and then we'll pick up with another game. But for those of you watching on YouTube, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!